Awesome. How is everyone? Summer is officially underway. We had a kind of a wet, cool spring, but now it's blistering hot. We're all feeling it. Feels humid. Feels a little bit weird. It's great though. Excellent. Well, let's get going. We've got, let's see this one. I think I turned it off. We've got a Mortgage Minute by Intraland. We'll invite Tennille up here. And also, are you guys sponsoring lunch today? Want to just say thank you as well. Lunch is coming a little bit later. And just want to say thank you to Tennille for doing that for us today. Let me give you a mic. There you go.
Happy Amazon Prime Day. The first one of two. Just really quickly, I have got passed out a flyer that kind of talks about a national average of, can you guys hear me okay? Anyway, I'll talk louder. Kind of talking about the average valuations of homes, how they've been kind of, you know, what the difference is between year over year from 1941 on. A lot of people has anybody been asked over the last little while when the real estate market's going to crash? Anybody? I know I have, and I was out of business for about 6 months. So one of the reasons why is because most of the real estate agents or most of the real estate market has appreciated over 40% just in the last 6 months, or in the last 4 years, I'm sorry. But as you can see from the diagram that I sent out, since 1941, the housing market has actually risen over 72 times, and it's gone down less than 8 times. And it's actually a little bit different. This is nationwide. It's actually a little bit different in Utah. But a lot of people are wondering, you know, when it's going to crash, when it's going to turn into another 2008. And a lot of times, you know, there's two differences. There's two reasons why it shouldn't. Because back in 2007 to 2011, there were over 4 million homes on the market. Well, right now there's only 1 million. So inventory is really, really low. And then also lending standards. If you could breathe, you could get a loan back then. I know that there's a lot of people that were put in a very, very bad situation and lost their homes. I was in the servicing business at that time, and that's when we saw a huge uptick in foreclosures. And is this okay? Can you hear it?
It's better for Zoom. They hear you better. And
okay. All right. Anyway, the point of that is that if you've got customers that are looking at the housing market crashing, and that's the reason why they don't want to buy right now, a good way to actually point that out is just to let them know that continuously the valuations on homes are actually continuing to go up. They're not going down, they're continuing to go up. Interest rates are a little bit higher than they normally should be right now. But they should be able to, you know, buy the home that they can afford and then refinance later. And that's kind of my mortgage minute. Lunch will be coming in about a half an hour or so. And that's pretty much all I have.
Excellent. Thank you very much. There we go. All right, we've got a couple things coming up. Want to make sure that you're aware of so we can get on to our amazing speakers today. Just so that you know, we've got the producer's playbook. This is our Salt Lake County quarterly meeting. This is the end of this week, so Friday, from 12 to 2. It's at the Board of Realtors. Every quarter, we want to do like a big one, everyone coming together. And that's what this one is. We're hearing from Boyd Brown, Miguel Gomez, and Ruben Gomez. Both of them, they're brothers. They did, their business has increased dramatically over the last year. And so they're going to be talking about specifically what they're doing and what they have done to make that happen. And if you know Boyd Brown, he is one of the owners here of this office, has multiple businesses, extremely successful business mind as well. And so we'll be hearing some from him as well. Softball. Aaron, do you want to come up here and tell us about that?
Softball is starting next week on Monday. Right now we have around 42 agents already signed up, ready to play. I'm really excited. It'll be a lot of fun. If you haven't signed up yet, the QR code right here that you can scan, that'll send you to Google Doc. That'll just say that you're interested, and that will make sure that you are on a team. Again, if you want to just participate and not play, you can do that as well. The dates and the QR code as well will be put onto Instagram for those on Zoom. The QR code and link is also in the chat. It'll be a lot of fun. We're trying to get lunch there as well, so that's also a little incentive for coming. But yeah, sign up. It'll be a lot of fun.
What if, Aaron, we don't know how to play softball?
If you don't know how to play, that's completely fine. Just come and watch the person in front of you, I guess.
What if we don't know how to play and we're maybe embarrassed and think that we're probably not any good?
No one here is a professional.
If you can tell, these are leading questions.
Yeah, no one here is a professional. It's completely fine. The point of this is just to go and have fun, an opportunity for you, the agents to get to know each other. Because there are a lot of agents within Keller Williams South Valley, and so we probably all don't know each other. So this is a good time just to get to know each other. If you're outside of Keller Williams, if you're on Intraland, if you're on Title, whatever, you can also participate as well. You feel welcome. Does that answer your question?
Yes. How soon should we sign up?
Right now, if you can, if we'd like to. Yeah, that's QR code. If you don't have your phone, unfortunately, then yeah, QR code will be on the Instagram story here in just a bit, as well as dates and times. Or see Aaron at the front desk. The fields that we'll be playing on are in South Jordan. So it's only about 8 minutes away from this office. We're going to be playing from 11 to 12:30. And again, it's not guaranteed, but we are trying to get lunches for these as well, so you can have something to eat right after, because we know that you're super busy. And so to take an hour and a half to come play softball already is taking time on your business. So we want to make sure that you guys get fed as well.
Awesome. And the first game is
Monday.
So that's why now, right?
So we do have team captains, and so Apex is going to be their own team. So that's already established. And then everybody else who has signed up, we're going to just wait until everyone's come in. We do want to have everything finalized by Thursday. So if you want to, please sign up quickly, because we will be divvying up teams here shortly.
Yeah, if you're not playing, you can play fantasy Keller Williams softball. Yeah.
We're just gonna make sure that teams are just even numbered. It'll be randomized. There won't be really anything specific.
So just to understand the schedule. Is it like an every Monday thing? Like, do I need to already block up my calendar?
Around two games a week. Yeah. Just like, yeah, I'll be posting it today. Any other questions?
Some of this so Aaron's been working a ton to get this. It's been very difficult to get fields locked down. And so some of this has changed and shifted. That's why we don't want to wait too long before the summer is all already gone. So it's coming up and we're ready to go.
Yeah.
But who played last year? Wasn't it fun? It was fun. Yep, so fun. And we do invite like amazing players like Annie's daughter. If you do have kids who know how to play, then they are welcome to come too. Sign them up, put them on the roster. We would love to have more than less, because that will allow those people. There's several people that are wanting to sign up. They're like, I'll sign up just because, like, if you need numbers. And if that's the case, they would rather be a cheerleader. They do want to come and participate and be with everyone. So if we do have more than enough, then that's not a problem. Yeah.
And then if you feel free to ask questions, give me a call or just come to the front desk, send me an email, and I'll do my best to help you out. But yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Aaron. It's meant to be fun, and it was a lot of fun last year. So, and we want to, at the end, Salt Lake has challenged our office to play them. So we will be putting together our team to play them. Excellent. Okay, so next week we've got the production awards, as you guys are aware. That's coming up. We've got tech-driven real estate, how Chat GPT. Anyone not heard of Chat GPT at this point? AI is coming in like a swarm. If you guys, if you watch 1 or 2 videos of that on like Instagram, then all of a sudden you're gonna get swarmed with all of them, all of different AI tools that are out there. I think this is, if you haven't heard or been bombarded by it yet, you will, I think, because there's a lot of tools out there, and it's, I think it's gonna be a new wave of everything coming in. So this is a way to see how you can use Chat GPT and any AI tools in real estate. That's Wednesday, the 19th. We got principal broker class, the do's and don'ts of advertising and marketing. That's Thursday, the 20th, next week. And for July 25th, well, sorry, the day we are closed on that Monday, will be open again on July 25th. That's for Pioneer Day. We've got a lot of things coming up. Tuesday, the 25th, we have listings and generation, get inbound calls, talking about all this. As you can tell, I'm trying to go fast. Look at this again for your email for any more details. And without further ado, we want to get, oh, nope. I forgot. You got to stop me, flag me down. I get going. Yeah, we want to invite Tammy up here to talk again real quick about her thing that she's going on. And did I miss anything else that someone might, I don't think. Okay.
Okay, guys. So I am on the board of a foundation called Mascot Miracles Foundation. It's a foundation where we create events for families of children who have medical problems, Down syndrome, like anything. We have 1,400 families in our organization, and we create events for them because they have tons of medical bills. And so we try and create memories for their families. So we just did, we'll do Cowabunga Bay in August. We just did a zoo night. We do a parade in Halloween, a reverse parade for them. So they dress up and our mascots, and we have sponsors and people come and just do the parade around. And then we have a big, we did a laser show last year. So all of we don't have our families pay a dime. So they get to come to all of these events. The aquarium's another one we do. They get to come to all of these events with their families and just escape for the night. Like, forget about medical bills, forget about the fact that all the other kids can just run up the slide at Cowabunga Bay and they can't. So when we close the park, it's all of our kiddos that are medically challenged. And so it's super awesome. But we only do one major fundraiser a year, and that is our masquerade ball. And that is August 19th. I'm going to post this up on the boards and I'm going to put it on our page. But it's a masquerade ball, and we do that because it's Mascot Miracle Foundation, and we have mascots from around the state. We have corporate, we have B, we have the Hockeys, Leo. We have all of the mascots. They come and participate in our events with the kids, and they get to see those kids from behind the mask. So the whole object of Masquerade Ball is that our guests come and they wear a masquerade mask, and they get to see what the mascots experience when they interact with our heroes. So it's super awesome. I would love to have more of my KW family come support. Emily, Amy, Terry, Eden, Kimber, they all came last year and they probably had 15 baskets. We have a silent auction. Emily had to have other people that rode with her ride with somebody else because they had to put all the baskets in her car because there was no room. So anyway, it's super fun. I would love to have you guys come. I will put this up. We're doing table sales right now. If you want to be a sponsor and buy a table for $1,000, you can do that. It's $250 per person. 8 people fit at a table. So we would love to have you come and join us. Okay, thanks.
Tammy, hang on to that
Yes.
for a second. This is really cool, and the impact that you have on these kids.
Yeah,
Why-
it's awesome.
Why do you do this?
Why do I do this? My best friends started this foundation. When the Olympics were here, he was actually one of the mascots at the Olympics. He's always loved doing it. His boys were mascots at the high school. And one day they were driving after an event that they had been doing, and they were driving along and they saw this little girl with a lemonade stand. So they stopped And they started talking to her and found out that she was doing this lemonade stand for a little boy who had cancer. And as they started talking to her more, they found out she herself had cancer. So she's doing this lemonade stand for her friend that has cancer. So they were just like, this is so cool. So they left, went around the corner, changed into their mascot outfits, and went back to that lemonade stand and started playing with the kids. And the impact that they had from that, like they just were like, this is so cool. And so then like that same little girl, they did like a prom for her, and she wanted, on her birthday, she wanted a princess carriage. So they had a horse-drawn carriage come and they did a parade for her in her neighborhood. And from there, it just grew. We started doing it at the aquarium. The first time we went was to the aquarium, my husband and I, and it was awesome. And so we just fell in love with the concept of it, and he decided he was going to be a mascot as well. So we bought a costume for him, and he became a mascot and started doing it with a foundation. So he was considered a foundation mascot. And so he was one of the mascots with them. And whenever one of our heroes, we call them heroes, passes away, we call them angels. We have an angel table. So at every big event you come to, like at this event, we have an angel table. We have way too many angels who have passed away. And so when my husband passed, we say that he is the mascots that is now watching over all of our heroes in heaven. And it just has had a very big impact on my family, on my best friend's family, and just an awesome organization.
Thank you. Tammy, it's really cool what you have done and been doing, and man, to leave us on that note. So yeah, we've got some cool people coming up to follow up, Tammy, but really appreciate what you represent, what you've done there, and let's all see what we can do to help these heroes, these little kids. Annie Cannon and Kenya Arnett, these are two amazing women. They're both great friends of mine, and I love both of them. They are good examples in their own businesses, and they have both focused heavily on wealth and how they can build up their own portfolios. And it's such an honor to hear from them. So let's give them both a warm welcome to come up here. Do you guys want a handheld or pin one? We have tons of options. Yeah. If you guys would like to grab food while it's warm, they'll get set up and get started. They just said that way the pizza doesn't get cold. So grab something, come back, sit down. So we'll get started let's just do it quietly so that we can get started while you guys are grabbing food.
Do you want me to intro us and then I'll start with me and then we'll go to you? Or you want me to intro, start with you, go to me?
You first.
All, everything.
Oh. Oh, that's good. You want me to intro? I would call you to start, because I feel like you're the longer standing. I can talk about like how you did it before and maybe like now recent.
Just see what the chairs and why we chose to do that. And then spending how you want to help people like through, yeah. Yeah.
I have to call you all morning so that we can
I
have
know.
this quick.
I know. Yeah.
Just to give you-
Just your outline.
Just so you
Okay,
know,
okay.
but like, here was like my, like, here's what I represent. I felt like
Mhm,
you're gonna be
mhm.
running 5 years. Mine was caps, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Starting from 17, made your risk being fast paced, I did long-term rentals,
Yep.
other finance. I'm very leveraged, like very on the risky side.
Yeah.
Even had to borrow from grandma, we become burrs and also just like the mindset behind it, like if I never accomplish more than where I'm now, I'd be happy. Like it's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's about something else.
Yeah.
This is my story. This is out of order, but this is just my own like takeaways. Like as I went to the store and took care of
Oh,
me.
why? Yes. Yes, I love it. I did kind of, that's funny, because
And
I
then
kind of did the same thing.
like,
I just like
instead of, like,
outline, mine's all
trying to guess
just
what
like
yours was. I was
handwritten,
like,
but
when did she start? Was she a little more cautious? Like, did she
yeah,
build
I
time?
just, oh,
Oh,
this,
look at that.
this is actually pertaining to that worksheet. So we can kind of go into that. Should we talk about that worksheet after?
That's what I was
I'll,
thinking. I
I'll,
thought it
tell-
would be
I'll say in the
challenging.
beginning, I'll say, we want to help you guys. We've got a worksheet here. We'll talk about that later. It's very
I didn't do anything.
cumbersome.
I just figured this, like, the challenge to get started. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I actually didn't do anything to like actually start the club in any sort of way, so I don't know. Well, maybe I'll tell them that we'll get something. together,
Yeah.
collect
Yeah,
information,
we'll
see.
talk to them about what they want. And then, yeah, I kind of just did the same thing, like early lessons, what I did right, what I did wrong. And then like kind of what my plan has been, and then just how important taxes are.
Oh,
So,
good. This
Yeah.
one of like, network club was one of the objectives.
Yes,
but like-
okay.
Like I said before, show the spectrum of ways to build wealth in real estate. The
Yeah.
different ways, different personalities, different markets,
Yes.
different times, different ages.
yes.
Surviving downturns, which is what you got. Like, for
Yep.
me, it was just building passive
Mhm,
passive
Yep.
income, having a net worth to live off of if we needed to,
Yep.
because we're risky, so
Yeah.
we don't run much cash.
Yeah.
And then pivot, look for
Yeah.
other ways.
Yeah.
So those are my,
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay. I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're like on the same, we're on the same page. Good. Do we need to be over here? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the camera.
are we already like talking to Zoom? It's so hello Denise, 'cause I saw her.
Hi, everybody.
You heard the game plan.
We've been preparing for this for months. Oh, they're probably waiting for us, huh? We'll probably start.
All right, should we?
like
Are
the
we all pretty mic'd up? Like, are they already on? So they've already been listening to us game plan?
That's
Well, this is for
incredible.
Zoom. The Zoom people.
Yes, we've been listening. You're awesome.
Okay, well, now you know what to expect, so. if we-
That's embarrassing. Okay.
Okay, we'll go
got
ahead and get started
this.
while you guys are settling in. So Annie and I are on the Wealth and Finance chairs. We share the chairs for Wealth and Finance on the ALC. And so we're excited to come to you and talk a little bit about both of our wealth stories, what we've learned along the way, and then I guess really we'd love this to be kind of casual too. So we'll each share our stories, things that we've learned, and then please feel free to ask questions, and if there's a little bit more time at the end specifically. So I think we'll go ahead and start with Annie and have her take the lead on her story.
Okay. Yeah, so like Kenya said, we serve on the ALC as the Wealth and Finance chairs, and we really just thought it would be fun to kind of just talk to you guys, kind of explain where we both are in our journey of kind of building wealth and financial independence, hopefully, and kind of get some feedback from you on what you hope to get from us for the remainder of our time in this position, as far as Kenya has some really good ideas around a wealth building club, and we've got a worksheet for you that it can look a little daunting if you, so don't get too caught up on that right now. We kind of just want to start with a good soft conversation and get some feedback going. So I'll start. I have been a licensed agent since 2003, and I kind of just hit the ground running from that time and haven't slowed down much. So it's been a long 20 years, but in doing that, I think Kenya and I have this in common, that we both had a very clear why from day one. And I think that's very important in this business, because you start to see big commission checks coming in, and it's like, oh, now what? Now what do I do with this? And so for me, I started my family not long at all after I became a realtor. And so I had to kind of make that decision if I was going to continue in this career or stay home with my kids. And I actually never did make the decision. I still haven't. I'm just kind of doing both. Now my kids are almost all grown up, but so yeah, that's kind of been the joke in my family. Like, I never really decided, I just kept going. So but it was always very clear to me that, like, if I was going to do this and take time away from my kids, it had to be for a bigger reason than for me. And don't take this the wrong way, because we all have but like for me, it had to be for a much bigger reason, like a fancy car, or anything else because that just wasn't important to me. And so I just made it a point to just start building a nest egg early on. And when I was in college, I was a business major. I interned at Zions Bank, and I had someone there who I just looked up to so much. And I had her come speak at Utah State. And one of the things that she said that has always resonated with me, I've never forgotten, is that in order for you to be in control of your life, you have to have a nest egg. You have to have enough reserves to not be a slave to your job or your, next client or whatever it is. Like, you can't be in charge of your life if you don't have the ability to take a step back and make a change where it's needed. And sometimes I think there's a lot of us out there who maybe don't ever have that opportunity because it's just like one bill to the next bill to the next bill, and there's never. So for me, it was like really important to figure that out really early on. So that's what we did. So that's one thing I did, I would say, right, but there's plenty of things I did wrong. So, and it wasn't actually until I came here to KW that my eyes were opened to more, like, especially investing in real estate as like a long-term retirement, and I think it had to do with that being open, like having my eyes open to that, attending some classes and team meetings and realizing, that this was what you do. Like, if you're going to be in real estate, you should be investing in real estate. Up until that point, I love designing and flipping houses. I hate the word flip, but remodeling and selling homes. And so I did that for a long time. And I remember, like, just in a casual conversation with Boyd at one point, I was telling him, because he's always asking, like, well, what do you do? What do you, and so it's like, oh, I love to do that. And I said, but my husband is more like wanting to hold on to things. And he looked at me and he goes, well, if all you do is flip houses, then you're just going to have to keep flipping houses. And I was like, oh, you're right. Like, I can't do this forever. So I think a combination of that and getting a little bit older, I turned 40 at that time. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to do this forever. I got to start figuring this out. So that's when we started to hold on to properties. And so.
And how long ago was that?
So we bought our first in 2018, but we actually sat on it. It's next door to our home, and we sat on it for like a year and a half before we ever made the decision as to what we were going to do. We were going to tear it down or remodel it and sell it, or remodel and rent it. And we've kept it, and it's been the best decision, obviously, with the way things went. So, so that was the first one. And then we bought a vacation rental in St. George, and then we just recently bought a townhome. So that feels really good to have that passive income and to have like a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. But so that felt good. I didn't know you could get a loan. No, just kidding. I did not, like, I actually paid cash for those properties. So that is not smart. You don't need to do that. Don't do that. Like, I could probably have 10 properties, and not have that. But I am, and this is where Kenya and I are very different. And so that's why we're both up here. I am very risk averse. Like, I am terrified of the worst case scenario always. So I've always said to myself, if I can't pay for it, well, I've heard recently, like, if you can't pay for something with your passive income, you can't afford it. So I like that. I always said to myself when I was younger, because I was a waitress like all through college, and I was pretty good at it. And I'm like, if I can't pay for it as a waitress, I can't afford it. So I've always been very conservative. And my husband is the same way. So that helps. Like, we're both just like, probably, I would say, ultra conservative, but that's good and bad. So I think we could be a lot further along than we are if we would have been a little more willing to take on a little bit of risk and leverage ourselves just a little bit. So, but that's okay. So that's kind of my story. Do you want me to go into a little bit more, or do you want to?
Sure, if you have maybe some like takeaways from your
Yeah.
story, then I can. we'll talk
Okay.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say my big takeaways are, and I think maybe this hit a lot of you guys too, like we've always known about inflation. Always, I mean, my parents didn't, I didn't grow up learning this stuff. Like I've had to kind of figure this out, which I'm sure is probably the case with a lot of us, right? And so I didn't necessarily know these things, but I've learned as I've gone and as I've watched mentors and tried to kind of learn from example of others. And it's kind of dawned on me, and probably in the last couple of years when like inflation just went out of control, right? It's like, if you're not using your money, you're losing your money, like big time, right? And I've taught my kids that, like when they've heard the term inflation, I'm like, well, see this house that we bought for $400,000, like if we would have just kept that money in the bank, not earning interest or whatever, and then tried to buy that same house today, we couldn't do it. We couldn't even buy half of it, you know? And so, like, it's very elementary, but it dawned on me, like, you've got to be always making moves, like, or it's just, you're going backwards. So that's been one of my takeaways. The other big thing for me, I have a really good accountant, and I really love tax strategy. So what's that?
Said, will he take more clients?
Yes, but he's not cheap. I'll tell you that. But he will take more clients. But so we've utilized cost seg. I also learned that here at Keller Williams a few years ago, and I've done that with every one of my properties. So yeah, just accelerated depreciation. So it's, you take all the depreciation for your property in 1 year. So I've kind of made it my goal to just buy a property every year instead of buying a car every year, you know? So that is very helpful. Oh, sorry. Yep. So that was a concept that I was taught here at KW, and it's essentially just, and this is the thing, we're able to do that because, Tyler, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but because we are really professionals, right? What's that?
Yes, anyone can
I
do
think there's a
customization.
lot of requirements that have to be okay, but like one of them is being classified as a real estate professional. I've seen others that like would have put me out of qualifying for it. So I don't know, but that's a really handy tool that has saved me a lot of money in taxes. There's lots of other things I do, but we probably don't need to get into detail. It's actually on this worksheet. This is kind of a financial checkup worksheet, and it's really daunting, but at the same time, it really helps you kind of see where you are and where you need to be. And a lot of the tax strategies are down there, like, are you paying your kids? Are you contributing to an IRA? We've done some cool stuff that is probably like outside of this conversation, but yeah. Anyway, that's where I am. So I think my takeaway, or my recap of my experience is, I wish I knew when I was 25 what I know now, but you know, didn't. So I didn't. But I'm also grateful for my 25-year-old self for the things that I did do right. As far as I just always have just like I don't know, just worked hard and just like lived. I guess I've just never really like had a big appetite for like anything like materialistic, and so that's been a blessing to me in my life. Like I just don't really, and so I've been able to just save. And then what's been nice about that is not having to be stressed in times like this or 2008 or whatever. Yeah. So anyway.
I've got a question back there.
Yeah, I want to highlight something that you said,
Yeah.
and maybe ask you a question, because there's a few things that we can take for nuggets as self-employed individuals. One of those is taxes, S corp, and running your business through an S corp, that sort of thing. The other that you touched on is the accelerated depreciation.
Yeah.
You brushed over it. Knowing how much production you do you know how much money you saved that year on taxes from doing that cost segregation?
Yeah, so the 3 times I've been able to do it since I learned about it, I've saved anywhere from 30 to 60,000
In actual tax
in
dollars.
actual tax dollars.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to
Each year.
highlight that because I knew it was going to be significant like
Yeah.
that. Because you quickly brushed over it like, yeah, this was a pretty cool tool. That
Yeah.
was like a
Big.
$30,000 to $60,000 tool.
Yeah, per year.
For her. Yeah.
First of all, how many homes do you each own as far as investment properties?
So I own 8 properties and 9 if you count mine. where I live in.
And what was the last part?
The 9th would be my own home.
Okay,
Yeah, and just 4,
4, okay. And
because she's smarter than me, so.
We changed the computer
She-
after that, so.
Yeah.
Is it working now?
That's true.
No?
Yeah, I wish I had every house I ever flipped, but don't we all? Yes. Yes.
I'm feeling bad for the Zoomer. She just mentioned the course. It's not working? Okay, I'll recap.
The 8 weeks to wealth course.
Yeah, I got that email, but I.
Okay,
feel like
so
I've seen
KWRI is doing it with Jason Abrams and Mark King, who is the president of KWRI. And it's an 8-week course. It's through Zoom, of course. And they go through, and this is the first week's homework was to fill this out and just to see where you're at to start. And every week is homework. So I joined it, and last, like 2 weeks ago was our first class. Tomorrow is our second class, and we're supposed to come with a 30-year plan to have a net worth of $50 million. And they said that is doable for everyone, no matter where you're at. And they also talked about the 3 levels of wealth. So anyway, if you ever have a chance to take this class, and their goal, Gary Keller's goal, is to make 100,000 millionaires. And I think they said they're already done 400.
That's
Something like that.
awesome.
And we haven't talked, we talked briefly on this and I've mentioned it to Tyler. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but my goal is to bring that show here.
You know
So
what,
I've been
that would
chatting a
be,
little bit at YP
yeah.
and other places to try
Yeah.
to bring to the KW region
Mhm.
that KW will.
yeah. And I
workshop.
think, being able to structure things the right way, like this kind of goes over and asks you questions and gives you an idea of things that need to be structured in your life.
Mhm.
I think it's pretty amazing. And the sooner we can implement these things, the better off we're going to be. So I love that you guys both do that.
Zoomers need to hear you.
On your accounting, are you still remaining S corp? Did you go LLC? Are you mapped? Are your houses held under separate entities from a management standpoint? Meaning, do you have a management company within your realm of mapping?
Those things are all kind of in the works. We're still S Corp. And we do have a separate LLC, but we have a series LLC, so it's one LLC that all the properties are in. As far as property management, I've started to go on that route and haven't made it very far.
Yeah, I just manage my own
And I
at this
manage my own
point,
too. I was
but
trying to create my company.
yeah. I'm the same as her as far as that goes.
Johnny come and talk about the whole mapping thing, especially when it comes to that one site.
Mhm. That'd
Well,
be great.
unless there's any other questions, I'll kind of start on my story. So, I got into real estate. Well, I guess since the following issue here, really, I got into real estate, 2017 is when I first picked up a book, I guess is what I'll say. 2017, which was, coming from the pain of 2016, when I had my first child at the end of 2015. And my husband and I working in the corporate world, 9-to-5 jobs. I'm like pumping, getting kids ready, take them to daycare, pump all day, try to get work done, rush home, bring them back, put them to bed. And then I'm like, okay, so we just repeat this every day for the rest of our lives, huh? This is it. We've made it. That's when we started realizing something needed to change. And so 2016, I started going crazy and just researching. I thought, okay, I need to do something that doesn't trade my hours for dollars. And so I'm like, okay, investing, like, what does that mean? I'm thinking I need to go buy stocks or something and just start reaching. And of course, inevitably, I end up at real estate. And I was recommended a book that was called like the beginner's book for real estate investing. I can share it with anyone who wants to read it, but you have to actually read it with your eyes because there's no audio for it. So anyway, I pick up the book and I actually revisited it this morning because I was like, what exactly did it say? In the first chapter of the book, it proposes that everyone always says they want to invest in real estate. They've been thinking about it for years. They wish that they did. If only they had done it 5 years ago, and then they just keep saying that. So this book proposes that you buy property in the next 90 days. And so by then I'm pregnant with baby number 2, like 25 weeks or so, but I'm like, well, oh, is it not working?
It's not very loud in the back.
I thought I was being loud. I thought I had a loud voice. I guess not. Okay, so basically that's where it all began. I was challenged. And if you give me a challenge, I'm usually like, I can do that. So we had bought our first home in 2013. So we owned a home, but we went out and bought a new home that had a basement apartment that we could rent. And we turned our last home into a rental. And so we did that within the 90 days and then shortly gave birth to our baby number 2. And then we basically rinsed and repeated. And so from 2017 to 23 is when we acquired the 8 properties that we now have as rental properties. I was following. Oh, I guess one point that I like my aha or one of the takeaways from at least that portion of the story is I did start with a strong why. And although now we call this like my wealth journey, it didn't start out as a wealth journey. It started out as a freedom journey. And so that's what my why was, is recognizing that I wanted freedom from that 9 to 5 and from not getting to spend any time with my kids, where now I can wake up in the morning and I can spend some time with my kids. I can send them down with the nanny who's just downstairs, and then they come up and bring me pictures all day, and it's awesome. So that freedom was really valuable, and that's what motivated me then and keeps me motivated now. The next takeaway from like that part of the story was, I want to turn it around and tell you what you should do. You should start with a strong why, and then the next thing, you should educate yourself thoroughly. Like I started picking up every book I could over the course of maybe 9 months, when I finally landed on real estate. And then with that push from that one real estate book to act within 90 days, I had gathered a lot of information. I didn't know everything, but I knew enough to act. So to add on to educating yourself, educate yourself and then act quickly. Because if not, it just turns into analysis paralysis. There's so many ways to invest in real estate. I chose long-term rentals. And you could choose whatever it is that suits your personality. And kind of like Annie said earlier, we wanted to highlight the fact that we are very different. We started at different ages. We started at different markets. We've been through different periods of time. She's done vacation rentals. She's done a lot of flipping. I've done a teeny bit of that. But I'm more focused on long-term rentals. And so figure out what your why is and what motivates you, and then what works with your personality. Admittedly, Landon and I, my husband, he's here, we are not very risk averse. We might be a little too risky. I don't know. How did I write it in here when I wrote it? I'm like, it was maybe slightly reckless, but I knew enough to feel confident in my recklessness. So we weren't just going in blind, not having any idea. We took some education. We had a decent plan, and then we just trusted that when something came up that we would solve the problem. And then I guess the other thing I wanted to highlight about our story is living within your means. Similar to Annie, like I wasn't as excited to get a brand new car as I was excited to just have a little freedom. So we started with owner occupied because that's what we could afford. We could never buy a house just outright. We couldn't just go pay for a house in cash. So we were highly leveraged, which is where maybe the risky side of our story comes in. And then when we bought that second house, when we had the challenge, we didn't have a lot of money. We actually borrowed money from grandma. So like we found the way. We set the goal. We didn't have the means just right up front. It wasn't just easy, but we found the way. And then we also lived in not great houses. At one point, we had our family of 5, and I was pregnant, and we were living in 1,100 square feet in 2 bedrooms with 1 bathroom. It was not comfortable. It wasn't really fun. But living within our means and making some of those sacrifices then has allowed us to live a really great life now. So, I mean, those were like the main takeaways that I had at this point, but happy to answer any other questions that are coming up. Oh, so the very first house we bought, that was 2013 though. So 2013, we paid $134,000. I just ran comps this morning, but I don't remember what I came to. $400,000 now. So that was one property I mean, that's now 10 years. So that was a good span. Like we bought our dream home last year, end of 2021. And of course we don't just carry cash. We don't have a lot of cash on hand. We pulled some cash out of that to buy our dream home. In the back.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
I tell my clients all the time, just get in the game and then wait.
You mentioned you read a few books. Do you have one or two, either of you, that you might recommend?
Yeah. So the very first book that I think made an impact on me, that it wasn't real estate specifically, was The Millionaire Next Door. That one started to change my mentality, the way of thinking. And then the other one that I just mentioned, it was the beginner's book on real estate investing. I forget his name, but he offers his phone number and his email address at the end if you have questions. And I just really reached out to him like a month or the last couple of months to tell him thank you. That was kind of cool. If you want it, I can tell you his name later when I look it up.
The Trusted Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We read that when we very first got married, and we both grew up with the poor dad. So not in a bad way. Just it's funny looking back, like my parents' experience with rental properties was basically buying their house in the early 80s when rates were skyrocketing and not being able to sell their first home and having horrible renters in it. And I remember as a young child going there, tearing out carpet, my dad being so frustrated. This is the worst thing ever, like just constantly dealing with it and couldn't wait to get rid of it. So that was pretty deeply ingrained in my mind because I spent a lot of Saturdays there. And so I had to overcome that. I had to like figure out that this is not a bad thing, and I think that's why I was so big into flipping. So I was like, nope, like get it and get rid of it. Like, do it and get rid of it and get the money in the bank, And so yeah. So anyway, I love that book. Really great fundamentals, but I still had some ingrained beliefs to overcome. So that's why it took me a while.
So since you have neither of you use property management companies, what are the biggest issues? Oh, you do? Okay. So what are the pros and cons to long-term rental with a property management or doing it yourself?
I'm glad you asked that. Because it is, something to consider. For instance, my St. George property, right now it's not doing that well. I don't know how other people what your experiences are in St. George, but the market has changed a lot there. Yeah, it's very saturated. And so, but it's also not a top priority for me right now. I think if I had a mortgage, it would be a different story, which is another good reason to have a mortgage because it's all the same, right? Like it's money that I'm not making that my money should be making. So anyway, I just manage that. This is the thing, that is a hands-off property in terms of maintenance. It's brand new. It's in a great community. There's no yard. It's really, really nice that way. We bought a little bit older townhome in Bluffdale that we've had a couple issues with. So that's been our first experience with like, a few little things that have come up right off the bat, of course, when we're out of town or on vacation. So, and then we have a unique situation in that our one property is right next door to our home. So that's been really nice. And I also have a very handy husband. So he kind of just takes care of things. So we're pretty well set up that way. I know not everyone can say that. My husband's super handy. He doesn't like to do things, but he's very talented. So, yeah, so it's worked out well for us. I think if I were to get to 8 or 9 properties, I would be needing to definitely hire it out. Does that answer your question? Okay.
So my quick thoughts on that. I'm an advocate that everyone should, and this could be totally wrong thinking, but I think you should property manage at least your first couple so that you have a good idea as to what that entails. So you know what to expect out of your property manager. That was my mentality going into it. And then it's just really hard for me to let go of control, even though I tried to give it to my husband. He's like, okay, then I'm going to call a property management company. But I think it is a good idea to do your own. And then as far as like maybe the pros and cons, obviously you're going to not lose money, but you're going to pay money, which maybe if you're producing and you're doing a lot of business in your sales, which is what my husband's point was, is then maybe it's time to hire a property manager. But I think until financially it makes sense, that you learn from the experience.
Oh, and YouTube University. Like
Mhm.
we fix lots of things and we're not handy. So
Excuse
or
me.
oh, one last important part of this. Once you get to the point where you don't have to do it yourself, have a list of vendors, which you do anyway because you're an agent. So have that list of vendors so that when you're on vacation or like, I mean, even having a good home warranty, which I know that Tyler uses home warranties for his rentals. I don't know if you still do. He did at one point. One time I'm like on the airplane about to take off and I get a text about some dire situation. Corey, when he was with us at HWA, sent him a message. Hey, I'm getting on a flight. I don't really know what's going on. Call my tenant. He called it, figured out, called the home warranty company, had someone out there. And by the time I landed in Hawaii, it was taken care of. So that's how you should property manage.
Okay, this question's for Annie. So I grew up like you and I have your same mindset. I'm very risk averse. So I've got this money saved for another house and I'm my own worst enemy. Like I'm just not taking the next step. Very fearful and love
Yeah.
to see the big chunk in the bank. So my question to you is what got you to take the step forward?
Okay. Yeah. So I think it kind of started to dawn on me that like the money in the bank is not the answer. And so I think my husband twisted my arm a little bit. And again, like coming over here to KW, hearing people's stories of, building wealth through investing in real estate. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And then what happened? It like doubled in value, So I was like, I'm going to do it again. So, but I still was like, I'm not getting a loan, like, so, and it's funny because like I've talked to my CPA about this, about like leveraging and like, look, I have 3 properties. Why don't I make that 6 or 9 with the equity in the properties? And he's a little bit like me. He's like, I don't know. I mean, what if things go bad? What if like, do you want that worry? I'm like, I really don't. I really don't want to worry if I found my comfort zone. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna start pushing you, Shelley.
Yes. Well, okay. And here's the thing. Okay. This is another thing I probably should share is what is the worst that could happen? Like, is this money that if you don't have it, you're not going to have groceries? Because if that's the case, then no. But if I know that's not the case. So that's the thing too, is we have, okay, I will tell you, it's probably been in the last like 18 months that I've reached a point where I'm okay losing money. Like I'm over it. I'm like, you win some, you lose some. Like if you don't play the game, no, you never win. So like, and the other thing that's my favorite saying is nobody who bought real estate 10 years ago has ever regretted it. So as long as you're in it for the long term. No. Oh no, you're buying at a good time. Yeah.
Look at the history.
Yeah.
Look at that little page that you got today.
That's why I think I love real estate because I'm like, I've had people come to me regarding like other investments and I'm like, I don't know, but I just like, I trust it. I know it. I trust it. And I feel like you're the same, like, you know what you're doing. So, yeah.
We've got a question on Zoom. Janet, do you still have your question?
Yeah,
There you go.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
And it might be for both of you. Annie, it sounds like your husband wasn't as much risk averse as you were. That was my question is, how do you get your partner to not be that risk averse? I mean, what kind of education can I give my spouse so that we can make this jump? We have a little bit of a money that we can use, but I think he's chicken.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably just, you definitely do want to make sure you're on the same page, but I think it's probably a matter of like helping. My husband trusts me infinitely. This is the thing about my husband, he doesn't care. So he's like, whatever. So he doesn't care much about like, which sometimes I'm like, you have to care. We have to care. This is important. But I think I have a pretty good track record with him as far as like the flips we've done have been good. And so I think that like, so this is a funny side story. We got married and like and he owned a little home in West Jordan. And like 6 months later, he was out on a hunting trip and I called him and I said, I bought a house. I put an offer on this house. And he's like, what do you mean? What are we doing? And I'm like, no, it's such a good house. We're going to make really good money on it. And we did. We made like 60 grand and we put it into our next home that we built in Heber. And I think ever since then, he's been like, all right, she knows what she's doing. So, yeah. So anyway, that helps. I think that helps if you can kind of show him. But then, yeah, but then also just like we were just, talking about, just like it's never going to be a bad thing long term, right? You might have a couple of rough years. You might wish you did it next year instead of this year, but in 10 years, you're not going to care. You're just going to be glad you did it. So,
Thanks.
yeah. Yes. You want here?
I think, Janet, to your question, I think breaking down the numbers, like having the numbers in front of you and breaking those down, there's a lot of tax strategy, which Annie and Kenya were both speaking to, but the appreciation, the depreciation, your tax savings. Generally, houses in Utah tend to double in value every 5 years, is it here historically, I think. So I think just breaking down the numbers and holding every investment property to those numbers, to those standards. Does this work? And, can we make this payment? And if we're losing a little bit money right up front, are we going to make that at year 2? Or are the overall strategy of, are we saving on taxes, right? Looking at the whole picture essentially is what I'm trying to say.
Easy to miss the whole picture too. If you own, like, one of the- it's very important, yes. All right.
I was going to ask a question that had to do with that actually about just wondering if you could talk a little bit about not only just maybe the tax savings and just the cash flow you get from the mortgage, but the other benefit that we get every year, compounding with the loan pay down and the value increase is something you can calculate as well that goes along with the cash in your pocket every month. And that makes these rentals, when you look at it that way, the passive income that comes from them is quite large. It's not all cash in your pocket, but it's going towards your net worth and your wealth.
I think there was one, I don't know, she did some calculations that Lana was running through the other day about total income for our anyway, never mind.
I think it would be fun to do a class where we have like focus groups where we focus on like a specific property and what those numbers would
Analyze
look
it.
like in
Yeah.
detail, Yeah, we should do that.
If this number is helpful in cash flow, usually is that on a property that I did was 3% in the year, which is like crappy.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, not, it's just the performance, but the overall return was 38%. You add everything else.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I think
But people only care about the cash, or they only think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Average cash flow, it's really only 2 to 3% cash flow, like cash on, as
Cash
far
on
as,
cash
yeah,
return.
how much I made. That was in the initial purchase.
Would you ever go negative because the tax benefits outweigh it?
it's too, for me, it's, I'm not very risk, I think I'm not very risk averse, but I don't like a negative cash flow. I've never done it. Not very interested. If I have to, if you force me, maybe.
Yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to ask that.
Really had a convincing reason why it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
return later on.
Yeah, if there was something that was like very, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like stocks, right? Or like you buy something and you're very convinced it's gonna give you a return.
Well, and there's also other reasons to buy it. Like I have a client who's negative on a property right now, but he knew that going into it. It's a full acre. We're looking at subdividing it, building a spec home on the other half of it. Like there's possibilities with the property. So, case by case, there's other potential for the property, then yeah.
Actually, I just wanted to add, we had talked about getting a spouse on board, and my husband is very risk averse. So every time, like in the beginning, when we first bought a house and we needed to sell that house and get another house, I had to really convince him. It was a lot of talking, like, this house is 1,200 square feet. We have 7 children. We need a bigger house,
You're fine, Lisa. What are you talking about?
And then just for either of us to actually do an investment property like Shelley was talking about, it's like the first one is scary because you've never done it and you don't have experience in it. And I started to work on my husband and convince him that we need to do this. And he finally said, fine, if you can do it on your own, the financing, everything, then go ahead. And a week later, I said, we're under contract on a house on an edge condo. He says, what? I said, don't you remember our conversation? You said, if I could do it on my own, to go ahead. And I can do it on my own. I don't need your job to, help with the cost or anything like that. And so since then, he's seen the value and now he's on board. And I think sometimes it just takes that one time where you realize it's not as scary as you think it's going to be to make it work out, right?
Yep, totally.
So that's what I want to say.
Candace, I wanted to answer your question, and I don't have that number there. I don't mind to knows it, but most of our properties cash flow really well because we bought them before rents went really high. I think we're more around 3s and 4s. Yeah. But like as opposed to our best cash flow property. I have that 16 to 23% was.
Yeah.
Yep.
The negative. So I don't know if you know my background, but I love this stuff. That's why I was like, I must be there. But I just bought a house 7.5 months pregnant in Idaho, and I bought it as a duplex, knowing that I would convert to a triplex. So it does not make cash flow. It breaks even on a DCSR loan because your girl was on maternity leave and not making bank. So they only cared about your credit score. I did 25% down from hard money, so 0 from mine. The rents from the 2 properties cover the cost, so I'm at 0. And then negative because I only use property managers. I'm like, no, you deal with it. Well, I have them all over, but even my Utahs, I'm 5 seconds from them. Pocatello, that's where they're still cash flowing and you can still do stuff. I like plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I love you. I need to know who you are. I just one watching your
She's
head
the
do this
best.
and I'm like, what's she doing?
She's the queen. She's the
But
queen.
that's when I would do something like that because once I convert it to a triplex, it'll cash flow like $800. So I think it's about finding the deal and knowing how to analyze a house. And I think real estate's the least risky. Like, holy crap on a cracker. When I was in Bitcoin, I was like looking at it and I'd be like, so I sold that and bought a house in Bear Lake because I couldn't stand it anymore. And the stock market does that too. Now it's just in cash. I was like, stock market sucks. So I see that too. So just as a sounding board, I would say that you're brave to take the first step. And real estate's probably your safest bet.
Amen. Thank you,
Yep.
Ashley.
I wanted to help answer the question about some of our cash flow between so the 7 properties that are investments. One of them is a farm, so I'm not counting that one, but the 6 that are residential real estate, like we average every month around like 5 to 6 grand in actual cash flow in our pocket. And our thought process for investing has changed. When we were doing owner occupied every year or year and a half, which we did 4 times, we moved our 6-year-old into 5 different houses. And you know what? They're still great kids and they're just fine. And they've gone through some adversity and shared tight quarters, and I think they're better for it. But recently, we, at least the way I look at it, is we started to kind of dollar cost average now. Like we have these properties that we bought in 2013 and 2016 and 2018 that cash flows so well because we locked them in at low interest rates. We moved into them with owner occupied financing. Now, when we pulled the trigger on a condo in West Valley, we looked at it like, this is going to make us $150 to $200 a month. Is that going to move the needle month to month in our lives? No, but we just put it in our portfolio. It adds to our net worth and it starts dollar cost averaging when we make investments. The way we've looked at it recently, if it covers and makes a couple $100 and you have the cash, and Kenny and I are heavily invested. We don't have cash in our pockets ever because we're always throwing it at properties and other investments. We do it. It adds to our net worth and it adds to our portfolio. And because our long-term goals were that these properties would basically end up being like our retirement, like we're just going to keep adding them. As long as they're not negative, why not just take it? That's kind of how we've looked at it. And with the calculation I had done earlier, with the money we make monthly just in cash in our pocket, plus the loan pay down, plus I took like a modest 3 or 4% appreciation every year, it adds up to about $100,000 of income or net worth to us every year from just our 6 or 7 properties.
Awesome.
I'm looking for the numbers because I'm like, I don't know.
So maybe the worst advice I ever got is to have a nest egg. That's
I I never had one.
She's doing great.
I was on a call this morning to our fund lender sitting here. We have, where Fannie Mae is now, is that Fannie Mae that's now approved the fact that they can count income if you're purchasing a property that has an auxiliary.
Yes.
So just an FYI there, and that's just been within the last week. And it was confirmed by an intercap person that was on that call.
Be an actual auxiliary, like an aid.
It has to be an existing,
it has
something that they've collected rent from. But if you're,
what
if
about
you've got a mother-in-law, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Jordan, let's go shopping.
Yes.
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 Already, right now today. I just
Yeah.
did some of the opposite yesterday, so I need to call it back.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Brooke, you guys had, TJ, you guys had one, right? But now it sounds like it's across. That's cool. Yeah.
So I'd love to ask both of you, we have a lot of people on this side, risk averse.
Yeah.
This side, balls to the walls, right? She's like, she's on her phone right there shopping for the next house right now. You have people in the audience that are going to relate to each of you, and both are, there's nothing wrong or right about each one, right? So my curiosity, I'd love to ask you if you know your numbers. It sounds like you've had yours for about 10 years, 2013.
Primary, my first primary, 2013.
Okay.
Yeah, we could say that.
Annie, do you know length of time that you've been keeping yours?
How
many years?
Just investment properties alone, 2018.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what
5
is that?
years.
Is that 5 years?
5 years. Mhm.
In that time, do you know what your overall volume portfolio is as far as property value over that time?
Yeah, so just like not increase, just the value of my portfolio. Real estate
Property value
only,
of your,
only
exactly.
real estate as of today is different than 2 weeks ago, I think, negatively. No, let me think. Yes, I had that number. Sorry.
I've got mine right here.
This is gonna be embarrassing. It's less than yours.
No, it's not a comparison.
Including
It's
or not including my primary residence.
some people are going to love your answer. That's why I'm asking this, because there are people who are going to like, even though you feel like it's embarrassed, whether it's a higher or lower number, people would
Okay.
prefer your method, and that's okay.
Including primary residence, 3 million.
Okay.
I'm subtracting things that aren't real estate.
So while she's looking at that, do
Yeah.
you know your cash flow per month?
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's about the vacation rental stuff. It's between 6,000 and 7,000.
We're not that, we get 4.1.
Yeah.
4.1. And then your cash flow is a little bit lower because you're more leveraged, right? You said yours is
Yeah.
about $5,000 a month.
Yep. We're all pretty, we're pretty leveraged. Well, I just not so much anymore. I've ran the numbers before, but I don't have them fresh, sorry.
How many people in this room own investment properties? Yeah. And if you don't, you should, right? No, my point in asking that is not to say that one of you is better or worse than the other. The point is that hopefully someone in the room there's people they're gonna associate a little bit more with Annie, and some that are gonna associate a little bit more with Kenya, and someone might be in between. So I appreciate you guys sharing those numbers, and maybe some people, if you guys would like to ask some questions a little bit more after the fact, to one of the other different strategies, both will work. But the point is you're both playing the game.
And that's Tyler, that's exactly, I think that sums it up perfectly. What we wanted to do here was just highlight how different our approaches are, and the fact that the whole point is just act. Whatever works for you, do it and just go.
Awesome. We're a little bit over time, which is well spent, and appreciate that. And appreciate these two great examples. And I love that you're both on really opposite sides of the spectrum, which is maybe spectrum isn't the right verb to use or word, but let's give them a round of applause and just show them appreciation. I imagine both of you guys are willing to answer questions. If anyone has, like, if you resonate a little bit more.
Feedback on like what people people want to know more about because
Yeah,
we want to
that was our big
bringing
thing about today. It's like,
conversation.
because we're here to learn too. So we would
Can
love
can
to,
I give
like-
a huge plug out to some of the things that are available to you throughout the area? I'm on the executive board for UVRIA, which is Utah Valley Real Estate Investors Association. There's also SLRIA, which is Salt Lake, and there's also Utah RIA. If you're looking for an opportunity to actually find out some additional hard money opportunities, some seller finance, some open forward thinking with regards to what the whole program is looking like or what we're seeing. There are people that are in it that are on it on a daily basis that are wholesaling and doing all kinds of things. If you're looking to build your wealth, like obviously these two gals were. It's a really good place to find resources.
Also KW Wealth, that's what I like, my kind of
Yeah.
my vision for our chair is bringing more of the KW Wealth resources and making sure we're all using them.
Yeah.
And so for with this assessment, so
Also, that we actually promote out of KW is the fix and flip and the hold. Those things, I actually had them, I took them down and had them put on them.
oh yeah.
So you
Oh,
can lay them flat and highlight, guys, and
Are those over the millionaire real estate investor?
I think there's
they're
more,
they were added after the fact.
I was gonna say, I think
and
it
there's
gets
some
more
great,
in-depth
great
on
information and
details.
strategies involved with, because it's just like Millionaire Real Estate Agent. They interviewed tons of investors and that's how those books are built. But they're a fabulous resource and they're available through the office, right, Tyler?
Just read them all. They're all good. Yeah, all three of those are great books.
Yeah, so please give us your feedback and thoughts. Clay.
If we need to leave, we can. It sounds like, are you guys willing to answer any
Yeah,
other
I'm
questions?
totally happy to.
Yeah.
Okay, if you guys do need to go, hey, I want to honor you guys' time, but if there's more questions, then feel free to, sounds like they'll be willing to stick around a little bit.
Like, am I getting
Yeah,
down?
sure.
Am I staying up?
Tyler,
Are we getting down? Are we, what's that?
Having conversations or
Taxes, uh-huh.
what's that?
Oh, yes. Okay, so yes, let's, I don't know what's happening here. I don't know. I still mic'd up. I could have my CPA come in. He'd be great. He'd be great. And it was through one of the, Moore Club that they had someone come in for the region and I was like, oh, thank you. Thanks.